So I think a really important thing that you have to remember is that sometimes you have to tell um, your parents or your friends to stick it, and you have to be okay with that. I think far too often, I think, particularly with parenting, um, far too often, um, parents don't listen to what's going on with what kids are thinking, and it's a really challenging thing. And I understand why that happens because you think that you kind of know everything and that you've had sort of experience, and um, and you have as a parent, you have learned a little bit of stuff. Um, and you kind of understand a few things, but at the same time, you forget that um, things change, and um, people have different tastes, and people have different understandings of where the world is going. Um, and I want to talk about that today. I think it's super important. Uh, and it doesn't matter how old you are, whether you're 10, 20, 50 years old. You have to really think about that it's very important for you to follow what you actually want to do and not what parents are telling you to do, um, but within reason. And I want to talk about that. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Maslach. I'm an Associate Professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship. And I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I want to pay the favor for to help you out. Um, so yeah, an important thing for us to remember, and we all kind of forget this, that um, parents don't always know everything, and they really need to listen to what um, their kids are saying, and really try to reflect on what they're trying to tell you. It's a difficult thing to do that, where you're reflecting on what somebody else is trying to tell you. But it's really about listening skills, um, and really taking the time to actually learn what they're saying. Because ultimately, it's really not your life that that kids are living. It's their own life, and whether you're and this message is probably geared towards somebody that is more like 20 years old, um, and you're reflecting on 20 to 30 years old. Even if you're 15, it's fine. And you're reflecting on what you want to do and where you want to go. um, you know Parents are good at getting you to where you need to go, but at the same time, they don't have all of the answers, just like everybody else. And you have to grow some. That's what people say. I know that's politically incorrect, but definitely you have to grow some, and tell your parents to stick it and follow what you're interested in doing. Um, there's so much that you can do, and there's so much possibility, that it's strange that you would listen to, really reflect on what parents have to say, when the world is so full of opportunity. But, here's the thing: when you do that, you have to be painfully aware that if you do that, then you're on your own. And I think we're scared to make that leap. We're scared to move beyond what somebody is sort of telling you to do. And I see this all the time with doing research, or I feel this all the time with doing research, is that you are scared to do it because you've never done it before. And you don't know what to do. And so you look for somebody to get advice. You look for everybody around you, and you're sort of grabbing at things. um, just for somebody to help you out. And then you typically, most of us, um, we go to the easiest available individual or easiest available solution, and that typically is your parents, at that age, and sometimes people in their 30s, but they don't know everything, and um, they're only and the information that you have to remember this, the information that you have is actually going to be very close to what your parents have to say, um, and so they're going to reflect your interests, but at the same time, it's not going to be a diverse interest. And, sometimes making the best decisions requires you to get diversity of information and to look broadly. And I know it's really hard to think about this, um, but that's why you go and get an education often, is you it's not necessarily that you're being trained to do something. That's a really big myth, but knowing it's allowing you to see that there's opportunities, beyond what you understand, and allowing you to go in those directions a little bit. And I think that's super important, that for us to reflect on that there is a lot more, out there, and the world is kind of like your oyster. But when you do that, and you tell your parents to stick it, you have to realize that you really are on your own then. And I think that's actually a healthy thing, though, when you're on your own and you're pursuing something that's your own. It's not going to be easy. It's really tough to do that, kind of stuff. So a lot of parents, 50% of them are going to be very supportive and understand, you and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of parents that aren't. And you're going to be a lot more braver. And when you do that, they are reacting with their own emotions. And they react in the way that they deal with things. And parents are kind of, they're people too. They're kids. Deep down inside, we're all like a bunch of 5-year-olds deep down inside. And if you boil it down to that, then you really see how we sort of have these emotional reactions to things. And so parents are going to view that as a threat. They, especially if they're used to you behaving in a certain way, they're going to get, emotional. They're going to get angry. They're going to, pull all these sort of guilt trips and all those kind of things. But you just simply have to be okay with making that decision, and know that you're not going to win their, friendship, unless they're supportive. But it's, hard to know that um, it's sometimes hard to sort of deal with that. And so just know when you're doing that, you have to be pretty strong, um, but pursue the thing that you want to pursue and keep going with it. They're probably going to drag you down. That's the hard part of all of this, is that because they're the closest, as soon as you see that, or as soon as they see that you're doing something that's not working out, and it often just takes a little change, they might um, they might sort of drag you down and say that what you're doing is not great. And so just don't listen to it and block that stuff out, and keep pursuing what you need to pursue, and repeatedly do that time and time again. I think we need to, um, do this a lot more. We need to have that sort of inner strength to deal with these kind of things, and know that you're going to be, um, fighting a lot, I guess, with it, but, just have the strength to keep going, and, have your own mind, but at the same time, you know, um, view it as a calm conversation, where you're thinking about what they're trying to say in an emotional, when they're in an emotional state, and reflect on what they're trying to say and try to get at that. I think that's an important lesson, for both parents and kids to think about. Um, is trying to get at what everybody is actually trying to say and what they're really trying to feel. Um, in my own experience and how I deal with things is I kind of have a sense of where things are going, but I don't know how to talk about it. And so you have to take a step back and think about, okay, this is, it's very difficult to go in a certain direction, and, sort of explain why that is and see where in, in 10 years, you're thinking 10 years out. That's actually a good decision making if you're thinking 10 to 20 years out where you want to be. And it's going to be difficult, um, to do those things, to do that stuff. Anything that's worthwhile, as I've said before, it is long and it's really tough at the beginning. Otherwise, everybody would do it, and those opportunities would disappear. So it's going to be long and difficult, and it's 10 to 20 years out. Um, and you just simply have to have that sort of fortitude with what you're doing. Um, so think about that, as you're doing this, and if you're having a heated conversation, um, take a step back, think about what they're trying to communicate, and think about if that's the thing that you want to do, whether you're parents or kids, and if you can explain what you're feeling and whether it's better for you, than what your parents are doing, then saying, I think that's actually a really sort of positive thing to voice your thoughts, right? To have that conversation, to be open about it. Now, if it's just because you're being lazy, and you just want to sit around and you feel tired, sometimes it's good to have that push, that encouragement, that sort of somebody cheering you on, whether you don't, even when you don't want to. That's very positive. But if you want to go in a certain career or a certain direction and your parents are discouraging to do that, um, whether you want to become an architect, for example, and your parents are discouraging you from doing that, just think about what they're thinking, and try to alleviate that stress of what they're thinking, those feelings. Um, and you're probably never going to be able to alleviate it until it's 10 to 20 years out. And even then, um, they might never believe in you. And that's the hard truth. But you have to keep going forward, um, and follow what you're going to do, because the world changes. It changes all the time. And the thing that you want to do might not necessarily, might actually reflect the world, and where it's going. But no, when you do that, you have to stand on your own 2 feet, grow some, and pursue it. And be happy that you actually pursued it. So that's all I wanted to say is just, tell your parents to stick it. If you have a good idea and you're pursuing it, if you're lazy and they're trying to give you encouragement to keep going, reflect on why they're trying to do that. But, if you've got good reasons and you can think thoughtfully, take a step back, slow it down, write down those reasons, um, of why you feel a certain way, then, you should pursue it. And if the other person, the party in the relationship, in the decision making sort of dyad or triad, is not paying attention to what you're saying, then you have to realize it's them that's actually kind of being irrational in the circumstance, and just keep sticking with what you're doing. Um, Gain encouragement from other sources, from other people, and keep going forward. I think it's an important lesson for all of us to sort of reflect on. So, with that, hopefully you learned something today. I'm not trying to sort of create family fights or anything like that, but it's an important lesson for us to think about. Um, Pursue the thing that you really need to pursue, and repeatedly do that, and don't stop. Don't let anybody discourage you from pursuing those things. If you feel that strongly about it, just get your butt in gear and get going, and don't get discouraged when other people try to discourage you, because they will, and that's just part of life. And it's usually the people that are going to discourage you and hold you back are the ones that are closest to you. So if you really want to do something and it's really your thing, just do it. Figure out a way to do it, whether it's on the side, whether it is looking for different ways to do it, whether it is standing up and growing some. You just got to do it. And that's an important lesson. So with that, take care and have a wonderful day.